Two people live in the same building, on the same floor, in nearly identical apartments. One makes $55,000 a year, the other makes $95,000. But the lower earner sleeps better. They have cash in the bank. They could survive a job loss without instantly spiraling into panic. The higher earner? They look successful, but every surprise expense feels like a small financial heart attack. Same city, same rent, same economy, completely different money lives. The difference is not their income, it's the system. Most of us think money problems are caused by not earning enough, and sometimes that's true. But often, the real problem is that we have no built-in system for what our money is allowed to do once it arrives. So today, I want to talk about a system that actually works. It's not flashy, it's not a wake up at 4 a.m. and journal next to your Roth IRA kind of system. It's a boring system. And unfortunately, the boring systems are usually the ones that change your life. Minimalist money. And the first idea is this: everything you own costs you money twice. The first cost is the price tag, obvious. The second cost is the one that quietly follows you home. It's the maintenance, the storage, the insurance, the repairs, the subscription add-ons. It's the mental energy of managing more stuff. That treadmill in the spare room? You didn't just buy a treadmill. You bought an expensive clothing rack with cardio branding, and it keeps charging you rent. Let's say it cost $800. But if it takes up space in a home where one room costs you a few $100s a month, that one-time purchase has become a long-term tenant. Most people judge purchases by what they cost to buy. Minimalists judge them by what they cost to own. That single shift leads to the next rule. Always calculate cost per use. Before you buy something, take the price and divide it by how many times you'll realistically use it. That $300 espresso machine sounds reasonable when you imagine yourself becoming a home barista. But if you use it 10 times, that's $30 per coffee. Congratulations, you've invented a worse Starbucks. On the other hand, a $120 jacket worn 120 times costs $1 per use. That's cheap. Cost per use kills impulse buying because it forces fantasy to compete with math, and math is rude. Now let's talk about the stuff you already owned. Ask yourself this question, item by item. If this disappeared today, would I spend money to replace it? Be honest. Not maybe someday. Not it has potential. If it vanished, would you actually go out and buy another one? For a surprising amount of stuff, the answer is no. And those items are not neutral. They take up space, demand attention, and create visual noise. They are unpaid interns for your stress. Removing them isn't loss, it's recovery. But don't fall into the trap of the one-time dramatic purge. That's a cycle. You declutter, feel amazing for 3 days, and then slowly rebuild the mess. The real answer is regular low-effort reviews, a quick weekly reset, a monthly check of one category. You catch the clutter before it becomes overwhelming. Now let's talk about one of the most socially accepted ways people destroy wealth: upgrading things that already work. Your phone works, your car runs, but a newer version exists, so suddenly your functional life feels outdated. This is marketed as innovation. A lot of the time, it's just expensive boredom. The minimalist standard is simple. Functional is enough. If it still does the job, it stays. Boredom is not a financial emergency. Replacing a $1,200 phone every 2 years instead of every 5 costs you an extra $3,600 over a decade on one category. Now apply that to your car, your furniture, your laptop. That's where wealth disappears. And this is why willpower is not enough. Nobody makes their worst spending decisions when they're calm and rational. We overspend when we're tired, stressed, bored, or emotional. So don't build a system that depends on your best behavior. Build a system that protects you from your normal behavior. Remove saved card info from shopping sites. Delete the apps that make spending frictionless. Set a 24-hour rule for non-essential purchases. For bigger ones, make it 72 hours. And on the saving side, do the opposite. Automate everything. Move money out on payday before you can see it as available. Emergency fund, investing, bills, all automatic. Make saving effortless and spending slightly annoying. Structure beats willpower every single time. Here's another trick. Count your stuff. Pick a category, shirts, shoes, books, and count them.
Owning a lot of shirts is abstract. Owning 43 shirts is specific. It's incriminating. When you know the number, buying one more feels different. You're not just buying a shirt, you're creating shirt number 44. That tiny friction matters. But here's the biggest idea in the entire system. Define enough before your income grows. People think more money solves money stress, but usually your life just expands to meet your new income. A nicer car, a bigger place, more subscriptions. That's lifestyle creep, and it's how high earners stay financially fragile. So define what's enough for you in advance. What size home? What kind of car? Write it down. If you don't define enough, the world will do it for you, and the world has terrible boundaries. Once you know your enough number, any income above that can start building something real. Freedom, time, options, and that's the point. Minimalists don't measure wealth by what they own. They measure it by what they can choose. Can you leave a bad job? Can you handle an emergency without panic? Can you buy back your own peace of mind? That's wealth, and every unnecessary purchase trades away a small piece of it. This system works because each part reinforces the others. Own less and expenses drop. When expenses drop, your margin for error grows. When margin grows, stress falls. And when stress falls, you feel less need to buy temporary relief. That's when you actually start building wealth. It's not extreme. It's about being deliberate, because being deliberate is what separates people who make good money from people who actually keep it. So, here's the question to leave with. Not for the comments, but for you. What's one thing you own that turned out to cost you way more than just its price tag?